Hello, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. So England 23, Scotland 29. It finished here at Twickenham. Both sides, their first game in the 2023 Six Nations. A brilliant victory for Scotland, who won it late on, thanks to Duhan Van Der Merwe, who had a brilliant game. The first 80 minutes we get to see of Steve Borthwick's England side, plenty to be frustrated about, but are there some green shoots there? Were there things that they can perhaps build upon going forward, not necessarily in this Six Nations, but in the years to come, the weeks and years to come? In this video, I'm going to get into the game, my general thoughts. I've just been sat in the press conference for both the Scotland camp and the England camp, so just kind of what they had to say on things and my general view on what we saw in the game today. If you are new here, do subscribe to the channel. Loads of content coming your way throughout the Six Nations. Like the video, but most importantly, as always, I want to hear from you. Comment down below, what did you make of this 80 minutes of rugby? If you're a Scotland fan, is it time for your team to kick on? If you're English, what do you make of what you saw from Steve Borthwick's side? All right, let's get into it. So I think it's only fair just to start with Scotland as the victors in this game, because there was an awful lot for them to be pleased with. And first of all, it was how clinical they were. Scotland, I think, had the ball in England's 22 for something like a minute and a half. It was around 90 seconds. They had very little time. They were able to get into that 22. England actually had a lot more of the possession, more of the territory as well. But when Scotland got their opportunities, they took them and they were ruthless. And that's something that Gregor Townsend and that group of players will be absolutely delighted about, because this is the sort of game where over the years, particularly with England dominating at home against Scotland, that Scotland could have come here and it could have been quite a heavy defeat. But I think there has been a mentality shift in this group of players. I think their victories over England in recent years, I mean, it's 3 wins in a row over England. It's the first time that's happened in a long, long time. It's another victory at Twickenham, which I think psychologically was always a hurdle for Scotland to get over. And it's just another really good performance from them. So they do deserve a lot of credit. And importantly, both Gregor Townsend and Jamie Ritchie, the captain, made the point in the press conference of they have to kick on now. How often have we seen it where Scotland have got a good result, they've got a good victory, often against England? You think back to the Six Nations last year where they beat England at Murrayfield and they then went to Wales in their next game and lost at the Principality. They've beaten England here at Twickenham with a try late on in the game. They've showed spirit, they showed a lot of quality. They now go and face Wales. They have to back it up. That's the next step, really, isn't it, for this Scotland team? We know that this group of players is of a standard higher than they had for a long time previously. If you want to look at the 10, 15, even 20 years previously, this group of Scottish players is clearly more talented than those squads, but they've never quite been able to put it together consistently. That's the next challenge for them. Let's see if they can go and do it. But as I say, in terms of the victory today, they were awesome, I thought. They weren't perfect, but I thought they... Probably 2 areas. I've said about them being clinical, also the defensive shift. England had a lot of the ball, and England's attack, whilst not necessarily being as ruthless as they would want it to be, was more dangerous, did look more threatening than it has been. So Scotland had to go through a lot of defensive work, particularly the back row, but really all the forwards, a lot of the team, a lot of tackles. I think the stats reflect that in terms of the amount of tackles that Scotland pack got through. They were able to withhold England, and then they were able to go up the other end and get the victory and get the score. Need to mention Duhan Van Der Merwe. First of all, actually, his finish for the final try. I know the first try is the one we all want to talk about, but the finish for the final try to win it, I thought was exceptional. He still had a bit of work to do there. Excellent, excellent finish. And then that first try, I mean, just ridiculous. Gregor Townsend in his press conference has just described it as like playing Jonah Lomu rugby, when you have one player that all of a sudden was just better and faster and stronger than everyone else. It was quite extraordinary. It will go down, I think, as one of the great Six Nations tries, particularly from a Scotland perspective. And he has become now, if he wasn't already, he is one of the top quality international wings in terms of his finishing, in terms of his size and his power and his pace. He was very, very good. So credit to him, brilliant try. We're going to be seeing a replay of that for a long, long time. But as I say, Scotland, they do need to back it up. Let's get on to England. The big thing that Steve Borthwick said in his press conference was you can't let sides back into games. And despite the frustrations that I know many of you are going to have about this England performance and in terms of selection and players that you think should be dropped or whatever it is, everyone's got their opinion, they did play some good stuff in this game. They did attack better than we saw them in the autumn. They did look more dangerous. Yes, I want to see them be a lot more consistent with how dangerous they are. I still think there are times they looked a little bit lost, and Marcus Smith was too deep. I want to see him playing closer to the line. I'll get onto that. But they did play some good stuff here, and they let Scotland back into it. And it's interesting when you're watching it here in the stadium. I don't know what it was like watching it on TV, but watching it here, I particularly in the second half, I thought, okay, this is where England, they start to pull away. They went behind in the first half. They got themselves a 1-point lead by the time they got into half-time. They scored a try at the start of the second half, and I was thinking, okay, now they kick on. But Scotland were just able to keep getting themselves back into the game, which was brilliant from their perspective. But England, you can't let teams back into the game, particularly here at Twickenham. The other thing for England is defensively. I asked Steve Borthwick how concerned he was with the defensive performance of his team, because there are a number of missed tackles. I mean, I know the Duhan try is brilliant, but there's 3-4 tackles in there which England would hope they could have really made, and they missed them. The same for one of the tries in the second half as well, Ben White's try, where again he still had some work to do and England weren't able to stop him. So defensively for England, that's a concern. And it's interesting because Borthwick has said that they're trying to bring in a new defensive system, and normally the stereotype when you think of a new coach coming in, a new coaching team coming in, defence is the easy bit to get right, because it's about work rate, it's about speed of your defensive line, and it's normally the attacking side of the game which actually people say it takes a lot longer, possibly even years at international level, for a coaching team to truly implement their attacking style and how they want the team to attack. Today it was the opposite of that. England's attack looked better. Defensively, I think, was where there were some frustrations. The missed tackles is number one, and then I think when Scotland got the ball, they were just able to stretch England better than England could do to Scotland. They could move it from touchline to touchline, particularly in the second half, and they were able to find gaps. So England need to shore up that defence, because Scotland won't be the best attacking side they face in this tournament. In particular, Ireland and France will have a quicker attack and have some really potent weapons, so they have to improve it in a short space of time. Elsewhere for England, the set piece as well was something Steve Borthwick mentioned. I thought the scrum went pretty well today, particularly in the second half it got better. The line out though was awful, and there was a number of occasions where it was just an overthrown line out just as they were looking to build momentum. So the set piece is still something for England in terms of line out, in terms of maul as well. We didn't really see them get their driving maul going forward today. That's still an element that they really need to improve, because if you don't have that set piece, they will not be successful. I think Borthwick is very, very aware of that. It's how quickly can they start seeing improvements. Trying to think what else I wanted to mention. Obviously Max Malin's getting 2 tries. I think he'll get a lot of plaudits. I do think, and as well as I thought Max Malin's played and I thought he did well, he was also fortunate in the sense that England's attacks to get those tries, it just so happened that they were moving to the right at those times, if that makes sense. I think had it been the other way around, it would have been Ollie Hassel-Collins scoring 2 tries and not Max Malin's, and it would have been him getting all the plaudits. Just my point being that as good as Max Malin's was, I think there was, and he finished his tries well, particularly the first one, the little chip across. It was also fortunate that was the way England's attack was shaping, and that was where space was. But it was good to see both him and Ollie Hassel-Collins play well. I thought Ludlam played brilliantly in the back row as well. For all the talk of the England back row, and I think Jack Willis always gets mentioned. Who else? Ben Earl, who came off the bench. Tom Curry, if he comes back. There's so many other players that I think people want to see in the England back row before Ludlam. But I just think Ludlam gives you so much. He hits hard, he carries hard, and he hits so many rucks. He does so much grunt work really, really well. So I was impressed by him. Other players, Alex Dombrandt, someone like that, didn't have a great game. I've already quickly seen on social media that the 10-12 axis of Smith and Farrell, is it working? Most people are going to say no. For me, the frustration is there were still too many times in England's attack where it was like a Sinclair or a forward, just a one-up runner taking that first phase. I think if you're playing Marcus Smith at 10, you want to see him taking the ball close to the gain line and dictating that attack. He was taking it too deep, and even though England's attack was better, there were still times where I thought it was a little bit slow. Overall though, I think it's a missed opportunity for England, because they were at home and they put themselves in a position to win the game and they weren't able to get it done. They play Italy next, away in Rome. I know Italy are on somewhat of an upwards curve, but England have never lost to them, so they will hope to win that game. As for Scotland, as I've already said, they go and play Wales. I'm sure there's probably something else I've forgotten in terms of my immediate reaction to the game here. I think it's frustrating for England. I think there are elements clearly they need to improve, which is what we already knew because we saw them in the autumn and they weren't good. It's Good to see the attack look better. That defence has to be shored up quicker. As for Scotland, a famous win. Arguably their most significant win over England out of the last kind of 5 or 6 years, when they've been the better side out of the two teams, because it was at Twickenham with fans in. I think that is a massively different element, but as I've said already, Scotland need to back it up. I hope they do, genuinely, because this team has always promised to kick on without being able to. I hope they're able to. And that's kind of my general thoughts here from Twickenham. Do subscribe to the channel, like the video, and as I've already said, drop a comment down below. I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of frustrated and annoyed England fans and some delighted Scots in the comment section as well. So let me know your thoughts on the game and any of the issues that I've touched on in this video. And as always, see you in the next one.